You're now watching Fiscal TV.
Good afternoon and welcome to Fiscal TV. Thank you for joining us. I'm Jim Caselli. Today's show is all about Power BI. I recently sat down with Fiscal Senior Advisor Joel Riphagen to talk about Power BI, and he has an overview for those of you who might not be familiar with Power BI and some tips and tricks for those of you who have started to use it and would like to take advantage of its capabilities. Now, here's my conversation with Joel. Joel, welcome to Fiscal TV, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Great to be here, Jim.
I know Power BI is a popular subject and there's a lot to it, and we'll get to that right in a moment. But we always start Fiscal TV asking our guests if they would give us a little bit of their background. So I'm hoping you'll do that for us to start things off.
Sure, happy to. So again, my name is Joel Riphagen. I'm Senior Advisor to the Director of Fiscal. I've been at Fiscal now for about 4.5 years. Before that, I had a career around Sacramento. I worked for the legislature for a while. I worked for local government. I was an independent consultant for a little while, but always trying to improve how government works for people. And at Fiscal, I'm neither an accountant nor am I on the technical team, and I kind of bridge the gap between the technical and business sides of the house with a focus on how we use our data. So I can't answer your detailed accounting or technical questions, but I've got a good sense of what we've done and where we're going related to Power BI.
That's great. That's a pretty big bridge, I imagine, between the accounting and the technical side that you have to travel.
It can be, but you know, we're all going the same direction. So
that's a good thing. That's a good thing. And the direction we're talking and taking and going in today is Power BI. So let's start with an overview of Power BI. I know you're going to be talking to us, giving us an overview and talking about some tips and tricks and things. Let's start with the overview, how Power BI came to be and why it came to be.
Sure. So, you know, Power BI is a business intelligence tool for Microsoft. That's where the BI comes from, business intelligence. And it allows anyone with some basic training to explore a set of data interactively. I think of it like a more advanced version of Excel. It's more complex for the person creating the report. But once a report is created, in many ways, it should be simpler for the user than a spreadsheet. And, you know, then talking about sort of how it came to be and why, you know, Fiscal is always trying to improve how we're supporting our users. And Power BI represents one of the big ways we're trying to do that. We're moving reports to Power BI, not only because it provides users with more speed and flexibility when they're running their own reports, but it also takes some of the reporting burden off of PeopleSoft. And it reduces competition for PeopleSoft resources, speeding that system up for all of its other uses. So our goal over time is to move as many users to Power BI as we can for as many tasks as we can to continue to improve our services for the users and increase the lifetime and usability of PeopleSoft.
That's great. And tell me what's available now in Power BI.
Sure. To help me do that, I've got a little bit of a visual aid, so I will share. So our existing Power BI reports include what you see on the screen. We've got a number available right now. I'm not going to go into detail on any of these, but we've got a lot of other materials that are available to help you learn about them that I'll point you to at the end of the discussion. But just very briefly, we've got an AR aging report that'll help you monitor the aging of receivables. Budget to actual reports, so you can monitor expenditures, encumbrances, and remaining budget balances. I'm actually going to use this one to demo Power BI's capabilities in a minute. A COVID-19 report, so you can see expenditures and encumbrances that are tagged as COVID-19. The encumbering purchase orders to see encumbrances and remaining balances on POs. The expense analytics is what you use to review the expenditure data that we publish on Open Fiscal before it's published on Open Fiscal. And then the Fiscal to SEO monthly reconciliation report, I think, is a valuable report that we developed in partnership with DOF to help you reconcile the amounts in the SEO and Fiscal systems. The income and expenses shows you your income and expenses, as you may guess, by various chart field combinations. And then the KK history and detail and KK history summary, both of them help you see all of your commitment control activities. So that's pretty much what we've got available now.
That's quite a bit.
It is quite a bit, and we've got some upcoming too. Would you like to see those as well?
That's my next question. What's coming?
Right. So moving right along. Yeah, we've got a number of reports that are in development right now. I can't tell you too much more than the name you see on the screen at this point, but they're listed here in rough order of when we expect them to come out. So those top 3 reports should all be released this summer, and the P-card report coming pretty soon. So keep an eye out for them, and of course we'll share more information about each of them as they are released. But this is what's in the pipeline right now.
Is it a pretty intense process to get like P-card Power BI up and running? Does it take a certain amount of time, one more than the other, or?
I don't know about one more than the other, really. They all are pulling data from PeopleSoft, usually from PeopleSoft. And then the data has to be pulled into a data warehouse, and then the PeopleSoft, or the Power BI reports access that data warehouse. So it's data that comes from PeopleSoft, but it's sitting in a different location that they pull from, so that it doesn't have a sort of a day-to-day effect on PeopleSoft operations.
Yeah, well, and we see 7 more reports, Power BI reports on the way. That's great. So let's get to some nuts and bolts. Let's talk about user access, roles, how to get them, and once you get them, what do you do with them?
Right. Okay, so to access Power BI, it's a 2-step process. And first you need the role. So each role that we have for Power BI, we've got 5 Power BI roles, and each one gives access to multiple reports. We used to have 1 role per report, but that ended up being cumbersome. And generally, if somebody needed access to one report, they needed access to the reports like it. And so we harmonized it all into 5 roles. And you can see sort of the reports that each role gives you access to. All of these roles are in identity self-service. So to get these roles, you need a DAD, department authority or designee at your department, to request the appropriate roles in identity self-service. And you can get, 1 or 2 or all 5 of these roles. And if you've got all 5, then you'll be able to see all of the Power BI reports as they come out.
Okay, so that's as simple as having your DAD through the Identity Self-Service portal request these roles. And so that's how you get them. So once you get them, what do you do with them?
Right. So, well, first you have to get into Power BI, and the process is quite simple. 4 quick steps. You go to our main website and go to the Access Fiscal page. Select Business Intelligence on that page. If you're not logged in, you'll have to log in at that point. And then once you're in Power BI, you'll get a screen that will probably give you multiple ways to access reports. Certainly, if you've been in there before, it's going to give you a list of the most recently accessed reports and things, but you'll always have this select apps on the left side of the screen, which I'll show you in a second. And then once you're in the apps, the Fiscal app is where all of the reports are. So it's pretty straightforward to get in. And I can show you how we do that. So again,
That's great.
Fiscal main page, Access Fiscal page, which you should be familiar with. And right here in the middle is Business Intelligence. And I am logged in already, so I didn't have to log in. And then, like I said, you can see multiple things on this page, depending on what you've accessed. But here is this little Tetris piece, basically, that says apps. If you click this on the right-hand side, you'll see the apps you have access to. You'll generally just have access to the Fiscal app. Fiscal Internal is for Fiscal staff only. And so if you select the Fiscal app, you'll see all the reports that are available to you.
That's great. That's looks pretty easy to navigate. That's fabulous.
That's right. Yeah, should be at least as easy as PeopleSoft and hopefully easier.
And so that obviously, I believe, leads us into demo time, and looking forward to seeing this.
Right. So like I said, I'm going to use the budget to actuals report to demo. Well, I'll click it here. I've got it open twice, but that's all right. So you click on the report and you get taken into the report. Now, the first thing you're going to see in the budget to actuals report is the about page. This is something that we've created recently in the budget to actual report that we are going to create for all of the Power BI reports. In talking to the users and in understanding their needs, we think this is going to be very valuable. It lays out what's the purpose of the reports, what role you need. So you might have gotten into Power BI with some other role or something like that, but you come to this report, it'll let you get to this page, but you might not be able to see any data if you don't have this role.
And it looks like it tells you what to do if you don't have that role.
That's right.
That's
if you can't see
great.
you click on the link and you get taken right to the identity self-service portal. Of course,
that's fabulous. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be a dad, of course, to provide access within that portal. We've got links to the job aids that are related to this report, a list of the similar PeopleSoft reports and queries, as well as other reports and queries that you could use if you're trying to validate the data. You want to see, does this match what's in PeopleSoft? You can use these reports. And then we've got notes and other information that are specific to the report. So for the budget actuals, for example, it's important for you to know that there are lots of different ledger combinations. And most of them, if you pick random ledger combinations, you're going to get data that doesn't make any sense. So you really need to understand which ledgers work together. And this is the basics of how that works. So there's the about page, but then you can see there's lots of pages. So we've got an overview page, which shows you the basic charts for the data you have access to, yearly actuals, quarterly comparison, and detailed transactions where you can see all of the transactions that add up into things.
Yeah, and I'm noticing quite a few drop downs on those pages too. So that's obviously information for everybody.
Yes, absolutely. And you'll also see, the report, when you get to it, it all runs pretty fast. It's not like running a PeopleSoft report where you schedule the runtime control and you sit and you wait and eventually it's done and you come back to it. Like it's generally live or close to live in terms of getting the data. Though, the longer reports, if you're a larger department that has more data, it can take up to a couple minutes depending on the report, but it's a lot faster than PeopleSoft generally. You'll also notice, like Jim said, there are all these filters, right? All these drop downs. So you can make lots of different selections. I, as sort of a Fiscal super user, can see all of the BUs. You'll generally have access only to your own BU. Can select by fiscal year, by ledger group. Again, this is where seeing what's on the first page helps you. So I know that CC Approbe and CC Detail together give me the information I need for Fiscal. Can filter it by funds, filter it by year of enactment, and then these other pages actually have a lot more filters than that. So you can look by reporting structure, appropriation reference, service location, program, etc. So there's a lot of options. This page, for example, shows you budget, expenditure, and encumbrance by sort of the account hierarchy. And you can drill down using these plus buttons. You can see sort of all of our different OE&E, but you can switch to a reporting structure hierarchy as well. So see all the same data, but I can see it now all by reporting structure. So there's a lot of different options.
And Joel, I remember from being part of the Imagine Fiscal sessions that there was a lot of talk about wanting to have access to reports and to be able to customize or create a report with the information specific to that department, obviously, but also specific to their needs. And like you, as not an accounting person or a user, it sure seems like there are a lot of options here for users to be able to customize what they want to see.
There really are. And so the first of those obviously is the filters. And when you come to it the first time, all these filters could be set at sort of all or blank. Like I can reset this so that it goes back to the default. And, you know, for me, that's every business unit and sort of all the ledger groups, and it sort of wouldn't make sense. So the first time you come into a report like this, you've got to set the filters so that they make sense for you and what you want to see. But once you've got those filters set, it's really important for you to know up here where the bookmarks are. So you can bookmark the different views that make sense for you. And so once you've got those filters exactly where you want to be, you can just click that bookmark and it'll take you right to that view. And now each bookmark is per page. So I've got one of these for each of the pages in the report with my filters preset. So I only had to go through that exercise of setting the filters right for myself the first time, set the bookmarks, and then I can just come back to them immediately right away.
And it seems like it also, excuse me, but it also seems like if you are on a certain page and you're looking at your bookmarks, that you could set how you want to see that more than one way. In other words, you just have to create multiple bookmarks to see the info in different fashion.
Absolutely. And let me actually give you an example of that. And at the same time, I'll go into a little bit more detail on how you can alter things to look even more like you want them to look. So you can obviously set all the filters at the top of the page. But one of the things that we've enabled on the budget to actuals report, again, budget to actuals is the first one we're doing this for, but we're going to be doing this for all of them down the road, is that you can personalize each of the visuals. So I come to this page and I see, well, we've got quarters down here, but this is actually by periods up here. What if I want to change what this looks like? So I can click on the personalize this visual, and I can see lots of options that I can change, and you, the user, can change all of these yourself. So the first thing is, like, do I like that it's a clustered column chart? Maybe I want it to be a line chart. And I can change it just like that, and that'll be my view, and I can save a bookmark with that view. But I also see that we've got period above fiscal quarter. I'm going to change this back to clustered column chart. So that means that period is the top level and quarter is the level underneath. And I can see that by drilling down in this chart, and it drills down into quarter and up into period. Well, personally, I don't like that. I want quarter to be on top. So I can do that. Quarter is now on top. Quarter is my default view. And I can say, well, I want this to be a bookmarked view for me, excuse me. So I can go in here and I can choose to change my quarterly bookmark by clicking on these three dots and saying update. Or if I want to save that one, which had the monthly view, I can add another one, call it quarterly 2, for example. And now I've got my bookmark before, but I've also got my bookmark for the other views. So I can have multiple views if I've got multiple things that are useful for me for each page of the report. So I really enjoy that. The other thing I think I'll say that I think is important when you're used to working in PeopleSoft, you know, you run a PeopleSoft report and it's kind of static at that point in time, right? You're downloading that data. It's the data as of when you created that report. Power BI, when you come to it, it is going to be the latest data as of when you go to that page. So you can see when the data was last refreshed. It's going to be essentially once a day for most of our reports in Power BI. And so every time you come to that page, it's going to be the latest data based on what was in PeopleSoft the day before. And so your bookmarks will take you to your views, but it'll be the views with the new data every time. So if you want your data as of a point in time and you want to save the data as of that point in time, you've got a few options. One is you can print any single page that you are on, just the way it looks. Pretty straightforward. But you can also export the report, and you can export it into PowerPoint or PDF, and it'll export in exactly the state that you've got it there. So if I choose PowerPoint, I can export it with the current values or the default values. I can make that choice. Exclude hidden tabs, but there aren't any hidden tabs in this one. And you can choose to export only one page or the whole thing. So you could do that and it would generate a PowerPoint file, which I did previously, and it looks like this. So Microsoft gives you this nice little title page, and then each page is a page of the report, just as it was.
And like you said, you have the, I noticed that you have the timestamp on it, so there's no question as to when the data, where it came from and the time. Not where it came from, but the exact time and
Right.
date.
Right. So you can see when the data was refreshed and when you downloaded it right there on the front of the report. So that's really useful.
And you said that the data refreshes once a day, overnight, generally?
Yes, that's correct. Like all of the Power BI reports, the data is going to update once a day overnight. For the most part, these are not reports where you're going to need, minute by minute reporting, is just to see what happened after the fact. If we do run across a report that needs more frequent updating, we can update more than one time a day if necessary. But as of right now, based on the resources we've got, once a day seems to be plenty for everybody who's been using these reports so far. And then the only other thing, those were a couple of different ways to save the data as it was. If you want to actually, download the data into Excel, say, and play with it a different way, almost all of our reports, we've got essentially this detailed transaction page where you can see all the individual transactions that sum up into the charts you saw before. At the top here, you go to these three dots, your more options. If you click on that, one of your options is to export the data. So you can go in there, export the data with the current layout. It'll export it, and it'll download your spreadsheet down there. And it'll just be a spreadsheet that looks just like that. So you can see the data, play with it, do whatever else you want to do with it in Excel. And then that'll be that data as of that point in time. So when you come here the next day, it'll be updated, but your spreadsheet will still be the same.
And it looks like there's a great opportunity for users to, once they get in on the previous pages you were showing us on how to set up reports, they can certainly, it looks like, play around with it to find out what works best for them.
Absolutely. Yeah, just like the previous report, you can customize this one and you've got all the columns that are available. Well, you can add other columns too, based on what we've got. So there's definitely a lot of ability to customize these.
And it really, to me, obviously looks like it's been very well thought out, thought through, whatever you want to say. And as you say, I know that users have let you know what they want, and you guys have been working on that aspect of it.
Yes, we have. And, budget to actuals is probably more advanced than a lot of them. And the rest of them, we're going to make similar changes down the road as well. So we've got, about pages and other things in the works for these other pages, or excuse me, for these other reports as well.
That's fabulous. So I know that earlier on the About page, we saw job aids, which I think is fabulous that it's right there. I also know that there's some really great stuff in the Learning Center curriculum for Power BI. You want to talk a little bit about that? And are you finished with your demo for now?
Yes, I think that hits the overview, certainly, of the demos. So back to the presentation, excuse me. Right, like you were saying, there is a lot of information available on the Fiscal Learning Center. If you go into the Learning Center, at the top of the page, once you're in the Learning Center, you've got that search bar. If you just type in Power BI, the first thing you'll see is a Power BI curriculum that we have created. So you go to that page, and it's essentially a page of every single thing that we've got in the Learning Center that is related to Power BI. So you can see, for example, previous Fiscal TV episodes that deal with Power BI. A couple of them go essentially into more detail on those reports that I just kind of glossed over at the beginning. So if you want to see quick demos of each of those, you can go into those previous Fiscal TV episodes. And I want to highlight, it's got all of the job aids that are usually related to specific reports. But this one, Fiscal 513, really reviews the personalization steps, that last stuff that I was demoing about how to change the reports. And that's going to be applicable to all the reports over time. So that one's, I think, going to be generally useful to everybody.
That's great. That's because obviously when you were doing the demo, there's a lot of different things that you can do. So to be able to have access to learning materials, can't beat that.
Yep, that's the theory.
Yeah. Joel, I know that a lot of people are going to jump on this. For those users that don't maybe know about it or don't know how to use it and everything, this is going to be something special for them. And I know it looks like we're almost running out of time. So if anyone has any issues regarding Power BI, what's the best way to deal with that?
Right. So if you've got general questions, you can reach out to me directly, joel.riphagen@fiscal.ca.gov. But if you've got a specific issue, like something that you think is broken or you think the data doesn't look right, something like that, we encourage you to submit a ticket. That's the best way for us to track if there are actual issues with what's going on in Power BI. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say there's another way for you to get information as well, which is the Business Intelligence Working Group. It's a monthly group where we meet to discuss Power BI and our development of it. It's the last Thursday of each month. So this month it's a week from when this is broadcast. And if you want to join, you can email Karuna Sharma. That's her email address right there, and she'll add you to our list. And we'd be happy to have you.
Okay, so that's great. It's you can't say that there's not a lot of information here for people that want to get to know about this. And the working group, those are always good too, because I don't know, for me, there's not a better way to learn than to dealing with other people that have already been in it and have questions and concerns and successes as well. So, okay, so if there are any issues, submit a ticket to the FSC. And if there are any general info questions, you can email Joel, and that's joel.riphagen, and that's JOEL.RIPHAGEN @fiscal.ca.gov. And Joel, thank you so much for being with us today and presenting this. It's, again, a very thorough presentation, and I certainly hope that our users will take advantage of this, this great service.
So do I, and it's been my pleasure, Jim. Thank you for having me.
All right, talk to you soon. Thanks, Joel.
Thank you. Bye.
Once again, I'd like to thank Joel Riphagen for all of the information regarding Power BI. And you remember, as Joel said, if you have any issues with Power BI, make sure and open an FSC ticket. If you have any generic questions, you can email Joel, as he said, at joelriphagen@fiscal.ca.gov. I'd also like to remind you that the presentation Joel was working off of is available on the invite that you received today. And that's our show for today. So thanks again for joining us. If you'd like to see this episode or any episode of Fiscal TV, you can find them on our YouTube channel. We appreciate it if you would tell your colleagues about Fiscal TV. And from everybody here at Fiscal TV, thanks again for joining us today. And we hope to see you in July on our next episode of Fiscal TV.